GERO200, how are you? All right, so it's Sunday, June. I'm gonna look at my calendar here. 5th. I should know that because my son's birthday is tomorrow, June 6th, 2022. So we're gonna continue our summer journey in your education of issues that are very relevant to you and your parents and your grandparents. This is a super applied course, and Gerontology 200. So I'm back, as you can tell. So you can recognize this. So we returned from Costa Rica, and it was a pretty crazy ride. I'll tell you that straight up. But anyways, okay. Again, I've already put so last year's last semester's video exists in here. If you want to watch it on how to do CT1, a lot of people are doing it. I'll still go ahead and try and make a new one tomorrow that's for you, but it's just, it's pretty much the same thing. So here's your how-to right there. So if you can click on this, it takes you right to the YouTube video, explains how to go through here and collect all the data. It's also very well written by Julia in terms of collecting data right here, okay? How you have USC in 2 different countries, okay? One country should be developing, okay? Like Costa Rica, like something like that, okay? And then you want to um, do this analysis using these different data sets, okay, 2 plus 1, and one of the 2 has to be developing, and you're going to look at life expectancy, and then we're going to look at the relative percentage of young, working age, and elderly people to get a feeling of the dynamics of the communities in these different countries, okay? We compare and contrast in your analysis the US with the other countries right here, okay? What's unique about the 3 countries, okay? So certainly I can tell you in Costa Rica, it's still a very, very agricultural community. It's very rural in contrast to the United States, where we're super urban. We are also very manufacturing based, and then at the next level, we're also incredibly computer based in terms of Silicon Valley and all the different web-based applications, apps, and things like that. So we lead the world in that. So you can see the dynamic there. So that's what you do right there, okay? Um, and again, answer these questions right here, okay? And then you can watch the dynamic of certain countries that have changed over time. All right, they were developing, and then they made a rapid transition into developed. So the classic example there is you can look at, say, for example, South Korea. So they were on just like a rocket ship for trajectory of modernization, and you can talk about that as well. Okay, awesome. All right. Um, you can download this slide deck, okay, and it shows you how to get the data right there, okay. This is my YouTube right there, so it's pretty self-explanatory. It doesn't have to be long, 2 pages with some graphs, okay. Make sure you read and that you got to have a graph for each of the criteria that we have here, okay. And you look at my slide deck and video for comparison. Awesome. All right, that's where I'm going to end with that, guys. We come up here. And again, that's not due for a while. That's not due till June 8th. Okay, so you got a couple days. All right. Okay. Um, so we're going to go into this the beginning of this week's assignment. So we've gone through biological. We're going from biological into the biological and really the mental health psychological component this week. And then the next lectures I'll be doing preparing for tomorrow will be the issues with all these non-communicable chronic diseases of aging, whether it's cancer, diabetes, and all the sociovascular diseases you've learned about, or Alzheimer's disease, which is a continuum of diabetes, but again, people that survive heart attacks and survive strokes and survive kidney disease because science has allowed us to survive, then sadly, oftentimes will succumb to Alzheimer's disease or some form of dementia. It's kind of a gray area. And then right here, we're going to make mention of this, and we'll do a deep dive into this next lecture. Sadly, it's put on your shoulders, the caregiving part, right? So you have a parent that has cancer. You got to get them to the infusion center to make sure that they have their routine infusion of either chemotherapy or you're going to get into the radiation therapy sessions, and they need a ride home. These type of sessions are not trivial, okay? Or maybe it's the targeted therapy session, the new wave approaches to cancer. Still, it takes it out of you, okay? You are really fatigued because your body responds to the foreign substances that have been infused into it, all right? Same thing here, you know, you have a dialysis because you have really bad end-stage diabetes. This is going to be a chronic burden for you as a caregiver, okay? And then, sadly, if you get into this route, we're going to talk about here, the burden of dealing with a parent or grandparent that has significant mental health issues, whether it be clinical depression, the other affective disorders, or some form of dementia, Alzheimer's being the most common, okay? Awesome. So we have a couple different approaches here. Again, we always have the PDF file right here on register, okay? And then right here, we have the readings, that is the web-based. What I recommend to you guys, again, is you're gonna go in here and on a separate browser, we're gonna get down here, I blew right by it, there's the discussion. Right, there's the assignment, sorry. Go through all this, get down here. I'm going to take you through all this so you don't have to worry about it, okay? And then down here is the quiz. So I would open that in a separate browser, and just as you're going through the material, just go back and forth, okay? Save the answer to each quiz, okay? And then when you're done doing this, and you can take a long time as you hit submit. Now, this time, everything we do here is totally related to what we do here. And it does the bridge to caregiving in terms of the discussion. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so I'm going to guide you through all this right now. Okay, so we have two different approaches here. So I'm going to also, just real quickly, I just want to show you this. Check that out. Okay, so this was in Costa Rica, which was a trip. So the zip lines are intense. Okay, and this was me right here. You see the volcano in the background and going into the jungles. It was awesome. All right, so and there I am right there. That's an Arenal. Okay, very cool. Anyways, I thought you would trip out on that. Okay, here we go. I have so many more pictures of this. That was the very end. That was the non-blue zone part of the story. Let's go to the website right here and look at mental health issues, okay? So again, I always love going to the website as long as it's gonna work, okay? So this is looking at the concerns, okay, facing older Americans, and it's also a concern facing you, okay? We have different stages of life, different aspects of life exposure that can cause mental health issues. I'm going to reflect back in a second that you guys are the most vulnerable age group for the occurrence of clinical depression, okay? It has a lot to do with the fact that your brain is undergoing huge maturation, change, and development. And this brain area right here is where our personalities, but also our kind of affect and how we feel about life, other things like decision making and problem solving, it's all right here, okay? And since it's not really fully, completely mature till you're about 30, and there's a lot of change going on at your age. There's a lot of people that suffer from clinical depression, more women than men. We'll see that later. Okay, now later on in life, people suffer from clinical depression as well. It's a much lower, if we look at the segment would be per age, so the prevalence, so the number of people in one moment at a time that suffer from depression in the older age are going to be less compared to you guys, far less. But when it hits, it is boom. It's much more severe in older age, and it's because it's appropriate. Okay, you've lost your job, you've lost your physical abilities. You can't surf like you used to, and believe me, that gets in my head a little bit. You've lost your family members. So I remember my mom, who lived till she was 91. All of her family members, okay, her brother, her husband, my dad, okay, her really close cousins that she grew up with, her friends, she outlived them all, you know. So she had to make all new friends at the age of 80, basically, for all these people, you know, to replace all these people, because sociality is key. It's the number one factor of happiness and good health. So it's a big deal. And so you do go into depression oftentimes with that kind of loss. And we talked about loss before. Okay, so we see that just the concerns, okay, looking at the stats, so we see really over 20% of people over the age of 55 suffer from some type of mental disorder, okay? When we get into the isolation of a nursing home, okay, then we see it jumps up to 2/3 or 66%, okay? Because it is, you're so removed from the things that you used to value, okay? If I'm in a nursing home, I'm not serving, I'm not hanging at the beach, I don't have my beach buddy, bum friends to hang out with. All these things weigh on you. And that being said, even though we have 2/3, we see that only 3% seek health. Okay, so it's too often people will have this snowball, and then it causes a bunch of other diseases that are related to having clinical depression. Okay. Alrighty, so there's just totally inadequate funding. You'll see if you've ever seek mental health support that the one area of medical care, so you can be a cardiologist, you can be a neurologist, you can be an orthopedic surgeon. We don't have enough psychiatrists. We just don't, flat out. They're really hard to come by, and it is, it's a shame. And in part is because people spend a lot of time to become a doctor, and they realize that it's hard to get the full reimbursement or for the fees that you charge for your services. It's just not valued by our insurance companies, okay? Anyways, like I said right here, if you have a lot of mental health problems, we see all these different issues associated with fear, distress, anger, stress, lack of social support, okay, all influence your immune system, so you're much more likely to get infections. Cardiac function, you're much more likely to have heart disease and other vascular disease, and on and on and on. You're going to recover from surgery a lot more slowly when you have these issues, okay? We see, again, when we look at depression and suicide, they're looking at 30% of nursing home residents, like I said, suffer from depression, a condition that leads to suicide, okay? And the suicide rate goes up substantially when you look at age, okay? And you can just kind of read through this and get a feeling for that, okay? Alzheimer's disease and dementia, so we're talking up here about clinical depression, and then we get into Alzheimer's disease and depression. We're going to do a much more deeper dive into this, so you can read through this, and we'll see later on. And then what happens is when you feel sad, okay, when you are depressed, oftentimes you go for the short-term fix, and it is legal in our country, and that is alcohol. So alcohol abuse is a major, major problem associated with mental health in our older population, okay? All righty. We need more people that are gerontologists that are also psychologists, okay, that really understand the unique needs of people that are getting older and they're suffering from these mental health conditions. All right, so that's that right there. All right, and again, you should have opened your quiz and gone into it. Now, I'm not going to go through this, but this is like a chance for you to show some curiosity. What I really want you to do is to just kind of go into the Alzheimer's disease website, okay, and as if we come over here, I just say, to try navigating these, you'll look at the questions, and then you'll kind of problem solve a little bit, and you can just come down here and you can, look at caregiving, look at related dementias. If there's a question about symptoms, you would go in here, the underlying cause, the term that people that are doctors use is called etiology or cause of the disease. And this is the basics right here of Alzheimer's. So you can just kind of go in there. Treatments right here. So we can go in, boom, and the treatments right here. And this would be useful for you because you're going to deal with this, guys. You totally are going to deal with this, okay? So so this is right here, how is Alzheimer's disease treated? And we just go into here and it just goes through a succession of the different types of approaches and drugs, okay? So you can see it right here, the one drug, memantine, they talk about. They also are talking about some clinical trials right here that were being used for the treatment. We actually had a recent antibody treatment that kind of failed, and they talk about it here. So anyways, that's basically what I want you to do. I want you to just kind of navigate and figure this out, okay? This right here is a video that's a shock and awe, and it goes through the numbers, and you kind of watch that, okay? And then you can watch this. This is the old school, if somebody dies of Alzheimer's disease, and then so we're going to say what causes Alzheimer's disease, Um, we don't, it's not like you can do a blood test, and it's not like you can do biopsies like you do for cancer and you get a feeling, all this. Sadly, we relied in science on doing what's called a, post-mortem, the person has died, autopsy, okay? And so the person, if they donate their brains to science, you sign the card, you've had Alzheimer's, we pull open the brain, we look, and we see that there's a lot of unusual looking pathology. So there's problems in the brain, in the cells, okay? And the two things that stand out are these things that are called plaques. And it's these debris fields of where cells have died, but also contents of cells have kind of released from the cell and then caused other cells to die. And these are called, it's a protein that also causes heart disease, all right? So there's this connection, again, between diabetes, heart disease, and Alzheimer's. It's called an amyloid plaque. So you'll see that in the video, okay? And then the other thing that happens is within the cell is this dynamic freeway of delivering constant turnover. It's just so fast of delivering goods, sometimes a whole 3 feet in length, going from here all the way down here. It's delivering every cell. It's usually the proteins and the different kind of components of the cell called organelles, like the mitochondria that we learned about. And these are all just like a freeway system. The freeway system falls apart, okay? So it's like having an earthquake in our freeways. So nothing gets to and from, and it gets all tangled up. And so these things are called tangles. They're tangled proteins, and that's the other. So we have the plaques and we have the tangles, and that's what you'll see about in here, okay? Now, this could be which is the horse and which is the cart. So we're looking at end stage, but maybe other problems have preceded this, and that is the major forefront. If we have more time, there's some new data, new really great videos that show that, again, inflammation is key. Diabetes causes inflammation, okay? All that sugar candy coating, your immune system flips out. It causes inflammation everywhere, including up here in the brain. And it's clear that when the normal blood vessels that are sealed tight, they open up during inflammation, stuff gets into the brain, and that may cause the plaques and tangles. So there's the whole new mission is what can we do to reduce the inflammation, reduce the diabetes that causes the inflammation, and maybe we'll bring the Alzheimer's disease a little bit more into check. That's the future. I'm just telling you guys, okay? All righty, cool. So, all right, so going back to stats. So we were talking about depression. Like I said, age at onset. You guys, you see right here, you're most vulnerable, right? Because of brain development. Then we get out here into age 30 and it starts kind of exponentially declining, okay? And we see the age of onset. This would be the first type of depression. Now, if you have an age of onset of depression and you are 20, it doesn't mean that it disappears out here. So if we looked at the cumulative effect, there would be many more out here, okay? But this is just the first time you experience it, okay? That being said, across the board, there's more depression in young than in younger age group. Now we ask ourselves, okay, who's going to act on that depression in a violent way? So we're looking at suicide rates, and you can see that while this is the early age of onset right here, okay, you see you see a big jump right here, boom, in suicide rates, okay, and that is reflecting the big jump here in brain development, okay. But what's interesting is that the suicide rate goes up and up and up and up, and these are just two different time points like that, and we see this consistency right here, okay. And it gets, and so people get a deeper depression when they get older, and that's what we're saying right there, okay. All righty. We look at the suicide rates by ethnicity, okay, and we can see that we have the white non-Hispanic right here, okay, we have the Hispanic right here, the black, we have the Asian Pacific Islander, these are American Indians, again, the highest suicide rate of all. So there we have a real problem in all forms of healthcare delivery to our American Indian and Alaskan Native populations, and we see that they're just it's a huge issue. Okay, so we see this, and then what else do we see here? Who commit suicide? Men do. Men have testosterone. They tend to act more violently on their mental health issues, and that's clear across the board. And again, this is just looking. This is where we bunch to all age groups right there. Okay. All righty. Okay, next. Okay, what do we see here? We talked about dementia. Okay, and we see that, of course, dementia gets worse and worse. So by the time you get to 90 and you're a female, 1/3 of you will be suffering from some form of dementia. Men are between 25 and 30% right here. But you see this difference that happens right here. Okay, and between men and women, it has a lot to do with the difference in who we are in terms of our sex. Okay, men produce testosterone, women produce estrogen, women go through menopause, and then they start going through this conversion right here. Okay, so that's the issue right there. So we're looking right here again at numbers, prevalence. How many people have it at this point in time? What's incidence? Incidence, IN, means increase. Okay, so we see that when we look at people over the age of 65, okay, that we start approaching about 12%. Okay, remember when you're over the age of 90, then we start approaching between 30 and 40%. Okay, it's a big deal. Okay, and we see that the lack of healthcare for African American or Black Americans in our communities nationwide. They don't get the care they need, the preventative care, okay? And so they have a much more likely likelihood to have dementia and Alzheimer's disease, okay? And again, same thing with Hispanics. It all has to do with racial inequities and access to healthcare. It's sad, but it is what it is, okay? Okay. So we can look in here at some facts. Again, here's this discrimination that I was talking about the racial equity and barriers to care to prevent or care for Alzheimer's and dementia care. Okay, so you've gotten it. Okay, and when these population were surveyed, there was discrimination against them in terms of getting services. Okay, as a function of their ethnicity, which really sucks. Okay. So we look at people over the age of 65, the official cutoff for seniors, and then you go all the way to centenarians. So we look at if you're between 65 and 120, whatever it is, 1 in 3 are going to die of Alzheimer's disease. And when you die of Alzheimer's disease, you die because you become bedridden, and you end up ultimately most people die actually from pneumonia because they had Alzheimer's disease. Okay. We have, 6 million Americans at the present time in 2021. Many more people didn't get the care they needed during COVID, and so there was a big increase in death from Alzheimer's, along with all diseases. Okay, we looked down here, at the cost. So in 21 it was 355 billion. In your lifetime, so this amount right here is going to triple. Okay, so you see by 2050 the cost is going to be in the trillions, not only for the direct care of the person that suffers from Alzheimer's and all the other associated problems that they have, but also in terms of the lost income for you as being a caregiver. Okay, alrighty, so we've made major headway in the treatment of cardiovascular disease. You see this right here. Okay, so we see that you can take drugs to get rid of your hypertension. We can take drugs to reduce your cholesterol. If you have an acute event, we can do surgeries that can get you back on your feet. And then what happens is you survive past these major hurdles, these challenges to your lifespan, and then you have this cumulative effect in terms of your brain's physiology, and we see this dramatic increase in the overall deaths associated with Alzheimer's. So you survive this, then something else is going to get you. So that's why it's like you just want to just maintain your health through exercise and diet and sociality and everything. And yes, you're going to have a precipitous decline, but it's not going to be long. Okay. And this is, more people than get killed with Alzheimer's than, or die of Alzheimer's, sorry, than breast and prostate cancer combined, okay? Then, I think it's important to focus on this right here, okay? 11 million people in 2021 provided unpaid care of their significant other, elder, whatever it is, that suffers from Alzheimer's disease. This is a major, major economic issue for people, okay? And it's a burden, okay? So, if, and I went through this, not with Alzheimer's, but my mom had poor health. I should have been working. I'm living in Laguna Niguel. Um, my mom was living in Monterey Park, and my brother was in Brea, and we were doing this triangulation. And then she moved to Brea, but I would go all the way to USC, and then I would go to Brea, and then I would come home at night. And I was just doing this, and something had to give, and it was my time at work had to give during this 6-month period that became critical for my mom. So everybody's going to go through this, okay? And we look at, again, the lost hours and then associated, with lost income. Luckily, I had a salaried job. I had permission to go deal with this, okay? But if you are running a family business and you have to go off and do caregiving, then there's nobody there to steer the ship. That's a major loss in income. So that's a big, big deal, okay? All right, so that's the background on this, and then it applies to the discussion, okay? And it goes over again the income. So you guys kind of read through this. This is the same stat. This is from 2020. It's it's within the same realm, and then this kind of goes over this concept of the burden that you are going to experience potentially. And this is why we got to come up with a whole new economic and business plan in terms of adult care. Okay, responsible licensed care that can take care of your parents because you're working, and know that they can be trusted, and they're not going to hurt your parent or grandparent, and they're not going to embezzle funds and steal and things like that. Okay, so if we look across the board at people that are of the age group that would be doing caregiving, 15% of people that are of the, and it could be you, okay, because the average age of a dementia caregiver that was a millennial during this period of time that was sampled was 27 years of age. A lot of you guys are 23, 24, and you're probably staring down the barrel of doing caregiving at some level for somebody else. Okay, so 15% of people in our country are dealing with this caregiving issue, the personal, emotional burden, okay, as well as the financial burden. We see it's more women than men. That's just the hierarchy. That's just the way it is. And if you have multiple women in your family, let's say you're the oldest sister and you have 2 younger sisters, it's routinely the older sister that takes on this burden, okay? Okay, so we look at this. There's a good likelihood that you're going to be experiencing this. You can see the age that is happening. You see that oftentimes once somebody takes on that role as a caregiver, 42% they were the only caregiver. Okay, and then you start asking the people, how did this affect your life? And a third said it really interfered with their work. Okay, and they said having all these issues with being work. Okay, some people completely had to stop working. All right, so here's a major loss in income and a loss in progression in terms of their careers. Okay, we see that oftentimes because we're a mobile society, people don't even live in the same household. And so, like, that was my situation when I'm driving all over the place. And then if you're living in a different city, then where's the trust? You have to hire somebody. It's a huge issue. Okay. So there's a lot of traveling that goes on in terms of this caregiving, and that's what that's talked about right there. Okay. So what are you going to be doing as a caregiver? You're going to, most of your time is dealing with healthcare and healthcare delivery. Okay. We're hoping to develop what's called a patient advocacy program that will help you and help your parent deal with the healthcare system, which is so complicated, especially where you're dealing with Medicare. What does Medicare cover? What does the insurance cover? These are all huge issues, okay? And then, so this is the majority of people, you're just dealing with these medical services, make sure you're getting the best care. And then we look right here, and you're doing hands-on, okay? So over 50% are actually doing hands-on nursing tasks for their parent or grandparent, okay? Okay, so then we look down here and we see the cost. So almost 80% experience significant emotional distress by being a caregiver. It's a big deal, and they were looking for resources, help, something to help them so that they can help their parents. Okay, what if you're sandwiched between your parents and your kids? You know, it's an enormous burden. Okay, and then when they looked out for help, okay, a majority of people, almost 80%, said it was so difficult to find help. So this right here talks about this role of caregiver right here. It's a real short video. This right here is one of the best videos I've ever seen. It's short. It is put in here so you can see what it is like in terms of having a parent who is demented. So this guy right here is demented. His daughter comes to see him, and it shows you the importance of music therapy early on. So this is a great little. You saw it was it was an award-winning documentary short about music therapy. So then this is my challenge. Well, I want you to design some type of public, federal, state, whatever government plan that will ease the pain of caregiving. If you're going to have lost income, there should be insurance policies that will support your income, okay? Or maybe, how about this? We would have, wrapped into the health insurance, better elder care, okay? Because there are significant limitations of elder care, okay? And there's a lot of out of pocket, which is really a shame. You save your whole life, and then it just dissipates. The people next door, their end of life care, they had 24 hours a day. Sadly, both of them took a plummet, and this went on for a couple of months. $400 a day, $400 a day out of pocket. So that's the reality. So we got to come up with better plans, okay? Come on, you guys. That's what I want you to do. I want to get you guys elected to Congress. Do something right, okay? And that's what this is all about. We need have incentives, tax incentives, family leave acts, policies, something, okay? And then I threw this down here just today. Donna Benton, one of my oldest friends at USC, she runs our Davis School Family Caregiver Support Center. People complain about not having support. These people provide support. They have an amazing website of to-go places for information in our local area, and then they have 9 caseworkers. And when the whole goal is to go out there and give you a break. Maybe you need to just go get dinner, all right, while somebody watches your older parents. So this is send this out to your friends, guys. All right, very cool. So that's where we're at for today. I want to say cheers, guys, and we'll see you next time. Peace.